Hello and welcome to the Rest is Football question and answer episode with Alan Shearer, Micah Richards and me, Gary Lineker. Thank you once again for sending in your questions. There's some beauties as always, and they're much appreciated. I want to start with this one because it's quite topical from Royston. Is Alan worried about his Premier League goal-scoring record now Haaland has signed a 9.5-year contract with City?
Before you answer that, Alan, did you see the graph that I put in the group? Alan didn't mention a thing, did he?
Never saw it. What was it?
It was basically a graph to show if Haaland stays for the full length of his contract. I'm sorry, Alan, but we're going to have a new leader.
And by the way, there's absolutely no chance he's staying at Man City for 9.5 years.
Ooh.
Seriously, do you think he will?
But where would he go? It depends. He would only go from Man City to Real Madrid, wouldn't you? And they've got Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius and Rodrigo. They're not exactly old, are they?
But 9.5 years, he's going to be 34 years of age. I don't see him being there, and I'm not saying that he won't break the record. I'm pretty sure he will. And he'll probably do it in 5 or 6 years, but he's not going to be there 9.5 years.
Well, who knows what life has in store? You never know, do you, with these contracts? But I think from City's perspective, I think in his original contract, he had a buyout, and that's, I think, been taken out. I mean, I'm reading the rumours, and also it stops him going on a free.
Yeah, I think for both him and Man City, he gets financially, it's more beneficial. He gets more money, and for City, they get to protect their asset because if his contract's obviously not going to run out, and whoever, if they wanted to buy him in however many years, they'd have to pay a shitload of money for him. So it works for both of them, but I don't see him being there in 9.5 years. And in reality, Salah could have the record, or Kane could have the record, even before he gets that record himself. So
you're going to answer the question. Are you scared? Are you nervous?
I'm not scared. I'm not scared at all. No, I've had it for 30 years, so it's all right. It's going to go one day, lads, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to go one day. Absolutely. I just hope I'm still alive to enjoy it.
Well, you're on the 17th green, so you've got another hole to play.
I'm
So
on the
you're
green now, am I?
You're on the 17th green now, yeah.
I hope I three-putt. Paul Stringer asks, one for Micah.
Ooh.
I don't know why he's just asking you on this one, but which player never got a round of drinks in at City?
Pablo Zabaleta.
Oh, you have a chance to have a go.
The tightest man in the history of football. Such a top guy. But when it comes to paying for a pint, he was nowhere to be seen.
Man City's greatest right back never bought a pint.
It was the only time you got ahead of him, was it, Mike?
Brilliant.
On to Pricey. Do you think it's time to end the 3 p.m. blackout for TV, or maybe move all Premier League games away from the 3 p.m. slot to put them on TV and make the 3 p.m. a designated lower league slot?
If everyone could see their team every time they play on television, would that then lower attendances?
I don't know. I think that's always been the fear. It's hard to know whether that would actually happen unless they did it. I think games are all, pretty much every game in Serie A and Spanish football, they're spread out now over, and they're all on TV, and I don't know whether it's affected attendances, but I think that is probably the concern. So, I mean, I think the argument sometimes is that, if you live in America or South Africa or anywhere else, you can watch every single Premier League game, but you can't hear. So I think there's fors and against that, isn't it?
Agreed, yeah.
Stephen Echels. Where does Zola rank in terms of Italians who have played in the Premier League, and would he get in Chelsea's starting 11 today?
Definitely
getting the team. Him and Palmer would be a bit tasty together, wouldn't they?
He's right up there with the very, very best of them. He was an amazing player, Zola, wasn't he?
Oh, so talented. I loved watching him play. Definitely right at the upper echelons of, any Italian players, not just ones that have played in the Premier League.
Touch technique. Him and Cole Palmer now, wow. One running in behind, one coming short, rotating, definitely, without doubt.
He was brilliant, was Zola.
Baki asks, Hello, gents. Bartosz from Poland here. When you were still playing, do you have any memories or stories about any Polish player that you either played with or played against that are worth sharing? I played against Poland. Actually, I scored a few goals against Poland. I scored a hat-trick against them in the 1986 World Cup, which I try not to mention too often. In that team was Zbigniew Boniek, who was absolutely brilliant footballer. And, they were a pretty good side back then. And he was their star man, played in Italy for many years. And I went to, where was it? Ibiza last year. And I was on a flight and I got a tap on the shoulder. He said, I haven't seen you since 1986. How are you? And I went, God, I know that face. And he went, it's Boniek. I went, man. And he was lovely. And we sat chatting. So, yeah, what a player he was.
I don't think I can remember not too many Polish players I played with.
The best would have to be Robert Lewandowski, who's still banging the goals in, isn't he? And for Barcelona at the age of 37 now, I think it's special talent.
Yeah.
One more before we take a little breather. Cabs C. Who do you guys think is close to be moving in the right direction between Tottenham and Manchester United? And who will finish higher this season?
Ooh.
I think if you had everyone fit, that Tottenham are in a better place than possibly Manchester United. And I think if I look at the overall squad, I think they've probably got a little bit more than United, and United need to do more in the transfer market. But obviously both of them are in a bit of a rut at present.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I don't think, no. I would go along with that. When or if they ever get their players back to fitness, Tottenham, then I would, they're slightly better than Manchester United's first 11.
Yeah, Spurs better.
Okay, we're agreed on that one. Let's take a break and we'll answer more of your questions very shortly. Welcome back to the Rest is Football question answer episode with Alan Shearer, Micah Richards and me, Gary Lineker. I've got a question actually from Kieran Maguire, who's an expert on all things financial in football, who does a great job. If you were granted 3 wishes to make football more competitive, what would they be?
Get rid of the PSR rules or whatever they're called. That would be for me.
Or change them, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Dramatically change them.
They need to protect clubs from themselves sometimes, and I think it was done for the right reasons.
Yeah.
But I think that's certainly one now, because you're seeing the teams coming up and they're finding it incredibly difficult to compete, and they're not... Leicester came up this season, for example, and the one thing they had to do was sell Dewsbury Hall to Chelsea to placate the rules. So that would be one. Make it more competitive. Do we think that means that to make the smaller clubs more competitive with the big clubs?
Well, they are this season.
Well, they are this season, yeah.
But, and that's a big but, is that if, just for example, if Forest were able to stay in the top 4, top 5, they've come in, they've challenged the big boys. Over recent seasons, we've seen Newcastle do that, then disappear. We've seen Aston Villa do that. They're now in 7th or 8th or whatever it is. They were in Villa. So would that happen to Forest? Because would they be able to go on and spend again? Bournemouth, look where Bournemouth are. What they're doing. So as I've always said, it doesn't sit easy with me the way they are at the minute, because it's not designed for anyone to come in and challenge the big boys. You might do it for one season, but after that, you're not be able to do it.
It's quite interesting with Forest, though, isn't it? Because it was almost as though they went, well, we're just going to buy the players anyway. And then they took a points reduction, didn't they, last season? I don't know whether that was a deliberate tactic on their behalf, but I often wondered, I just thought you've got these rules and you might be punished 4 or 5, 6 points, whatever it is. But if you get in 3 players, they might make up those 6 points in the long term. You understand what I'm saying?
I know what you mean, but we can't get into that. It would be a minefield, wouldn't it?
It is a bit of a minefield, but...
You're still going to have the salaries that you'd have to pay, though, wouldn't you? Whether that would hinder you or not, I don't know. But I totally understand what you're saying, yeah.
Do you think they might shift it maybe to a salary cap, the overall spending of the football club? That could level the playing field slightly.
Aren't they looking at doing something with the TV revenues, aren't they? That's the next thing, isn't it? That's what's coming in next.
Well, we've got one. He wanted 3.
I think ultimately being competitive all boils down to the finances. And I mean, we'll say what we want with law changes or whatever, but I'm not sure changing them will make it more competitive. What will do is the financial rules.
Yeah, I'm not sure we come up with 3. So sorry, Kieran, but I think that's the main one.
We'll leave all the finances to you, Kieran.
Freddie, if you all could have played with one player from your club's biggest rivals, who would you have chosen and why? I'll go for when I played at Barcelona, and I'll go, the big rivals, obviously Real Madrid. So, and at that point, I would go Emilio Butragueño.
Oh, right, yeah.
Who played like a 10, really, and was really creative and would have been very helpful, I think.
I'm going to go Ronaldo.
Cristiano, yes, at United.
Cristiano, yes. Man United. Imagine playing with him. Just sitting back, doing your job, not having to run forward. Just leave it all. He can do it, and I'm just defending, making me look fantastic. Yeah, Ronaldo.
I don't think you've got it in you to pick a Sunderland player, Alan.
I was just going to say, I can't compete with Butragueño and Ronaldo, so just pass. If you don't mind.
Who's the greatest ever Sunderland player? Guys, you'll know this.
Blimey, good question.
The greatest ever. When there was in their pomp.
I'll say Big Niall Quinn, because that partnership that he had with Kevin Phillips and the big man, little man, and the balls he nodded down and laid on for him. So, Big Quinny.
Yeah, he'd have laid a few on for you. No question about that. One for you, Micah. I know Micah is addicted to his fantasy league, but has he ever gone down the dark path of playing the Football Manager PC games?
Oh my gosh. If you want to talk about addiction, that is addiction at its finest. I remember late at night playing till 6:30 in the morning. I've got to leave for school at 7. And I've won the league. I've put in for a few players. And by the time I got home, my mum erased the whole game. I didn't speak to her for about 2 weeks. Honest to God. And after that...
You need a bit of perspective in life, Micah, you do.
I just loved it so much. It's just...
Why is he saying it's the dark path?
Because what will happen is you'll play 10 games and you think, say it's about 7 o'clock after you've watched EastEnders back in the day or whatever, and you think, I'm going to go play this now. First, you have a transfer window, and that might take you an hour and a half to get all the players, buy, sell, get all the money in and all that sort of thing. And then the season starts, and you might have played 10 games. You might have won 8, drawn 1, lost 1 as well. But then you're thinking, if I just can be top of the league before I go to bed. And for some reason...
How old were you? 12?
I was young. It was school days.
Okay, you were then, yeah.
For some reason, it doesn't let you be top of the league. So you keep... And then what you used to do, I know it sounds ridiculous. You used to save the game, then restart it and play that game until you'd won. And then when you'd win... top of the league and win it again. So you're fighting with it all night until you're top of the league. And I wouldn't go to bed until I was top of the league and then start fresh the next day, carry on.
How old were you?
It happened all through youth. I was in primary school and in high school.
Did you get A level in it?
I'm a pundit now. It's worked.
Paid off. You learned a lot about players. James Leonard. Why is there a lack of top number 9s in European football? We've discussed this a little bit. I think it might be down to the fact that the tactical side of the game has changed rather than having 2 strikers. So there's only 1 in the centre and then generally it's 2 either side. So it's more 3 up top. So I think it's probably more enjoyable to play in that kind of inverted winger because you can run at players and face them up, whereas you've got your back to goal, and it's a tough role playing up front.
Still a few around, though, isn't there? I mean, you got Haaland around, you look around.
Lewandowski.
Delap.
Lap, the young ones coming through. Maybe Ferguson's been injured at Brighton for quite a lot, but he's got that potential to be a good number 9.
Sheshko's centre forward, isn't he?
Gyökeres.
Yeah. David at Lidl, Jonathan David, Harry Kane. So, yeah, there's still a few around here.
Still a few, but yeah. But I think it's down probably to that slight tactical shift in football overall. Brown Apple. Can't be his name, can it? If you had to make one rule change, what would you do and why? Also, what's up with the delay on semi-automated offside calls? Well, I know what that is. They use a different ball in Europe than we're using here. I think it's either is it Nike and Adidas, and one of them's got the chip that works, and they haven't got that in the Premier League. I think that's what's holding it up, isn't it?
That's the one thing that needs to hurry up, by the way.
Yeah.
The time it takes, to draw the lines and all of these things, and that's going to be a really good addition when it eventually comes. It needs to hurry.
It'll be one of those things, I think, a little bit like goal line technology, where there'll be very tight decisions, but it'll come, and I think we'll start to trust it a little bit like we do with goal line technology, and I think that will help things, and inevitably it will be quicker, I think. But one rule change. I've harped on about this for a long time, that should be allowed to take free kicks. That tactical foul that people do, and then there's a delay because the referee has to wait for everybody to get into position and all this sort of stuff. I think you should be allowed to take a free kick immediately, even to yourself, a little bit like they do in rugby. Because at the moment, the advantage goes to the team that commits the foul, and it should go to the team that suffers the foul. And it would also speed the game up a lot. And now, when there's a free kick, you have to wait about everyone lines up and the box, and the referee draws his little white thing down on the floor, and it's interminable. I think it'd be a real plus for the game.
Interminable? Say that word again, Gaz.
Interminable. Wow. Never ending, Micah. Never
That
ending.
is fantastic. Let me write that down in my notes.
Micah can't even say that. Try saying it.
Say it again. Interminable. Interminable. Wow. See, learn something all the time.
The handball law.
Oh yeah, that's got to change. It's ludicrous at the moment, isn't it?
Simplify it.
I know it's not a rule change per se, but no VAR. Do you remember the FA Cup game?
Yeah,
Arsenal, Man United. It was refreshing to see the game. I went to non-league, like we mentioned on our last episode. Watching a game without VAR, it just flows so much better. I just feel like it's killing the spectacle. I understand why they have it, but yeah, I just don't like it anymore.
Final question. Andrew. Don't think Forest fans will like this question much, but he might be a Forest fan, I don't know. Forest have been compared to Leicester in their title-winning season. That Leicester team had players move on to big clubs and see tons of success, Mahrez and Kante. Who do you see doing that from this Forest team?
There's a few that could.
Murillo, for sure. Gibbs White, I like.
Alanga, Elliot Anderson.
Yeah, there's a few that will garner a lot of interest, I think, from other clubs, but maybe Forest can keep them.
Or if they were allowed to add 3 or 4 top quality ones, then they could compete again next season.
They're doing so well. I think if they got into the Champions League, they'd probably find it difficult. But they've got quite a big squad because they've bought a lot of players, Forest. So it's really going to be an interesting part of the second half of the season, seeing if they can maintain their presence amongst the elite.
If they get into the Champions League, Nuno Espirito Santo has got to win Manager of the Year.
He won't know, will he? Because Arne Slot will win it.
I know, yeah.
If you win the league, it's very, very rare. It has happened on occasions.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
That a coach wins the league and doesn't win Manager of the Year or Coach of the Year. So anyway, we don't want this to be too interminable, so let's call it a day there. Thank you very much again for your questions. That's it for this episode. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.